Just to, right. Now you could jump on my come.
No, I understand.
We are later.
We live on me.
We live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to DeBrief.
Yeah, man.
Today we're discussing crime and violence. So what we're going to do is just give some time for some people to just book and come in and get some numbers going before we start the talk show. And share the link, and so we can share our link. Again, we're going live. We're using live stream, so you can up on the side though. Yeah, mail up on the side.
You can look at the angle of the camera.
Yeah, the camera lean a bit more.
Yeah, so flatter video a minute.
Lean like DLB.
I knew you would have said that. But don't worry, things will rise again. The phoenix rises from the ashes, brother.
You gotta put some Jimmy.
When he's happy, that's it.
We can't do it.
Just take it off.
Hey, that was over though? Can't you want?
Yeah, we good.
It's like a flat, man.
Okay. You gotta move the thing off the screen, please.
Alright, send me like that.
Yeah, we live already. Go up on the page. Go up on the page. Keep the
Oh,
light.
you didn't send it in True.
Yeah, sorry about that, people. We just trying to get some angle shots there. No, you're going to send it yourself.
Yeah, I know.
Go on the page. Forgive us on the angle. We're just trying to angle out the show to make sure we look good and what's not for the show. All right. If we too dark, let us know.
Yeah, I know. They can sit first. They can't see court. But then they get caught dark. So.
If you have any sound issue, please let us know. If you have any sound issue with us, as well as any technical difficulties that you may see that we may have. Again, today we're discussing. We are discussing the crime and violence in and among schools and in among people.
True.
So that is what we'll be discussing today. So tune into the show. So just give us a minute. Let's share. Share with your friends, share with your family, and let's talk crime and violence. We want to hear your opinion on what you think about crime and violence in the secondary schools, crime and violence within society. We want to know what is going on, what your thoughts are, on how best we can tackle this crime and violence issue here in Barbados. So we are live, and we just share. All of us are just sharing because we're on live stream. So
this WhatsApp thing, only sharing 5 people. That's ridiculous.
1 second. Really dark. Yeah.
You need a little more light on me.
So we should be ready to start. Yeah.
All right.
Today we have a special guest on the show, Mr. Mario Bruce, who is here with us, and he's here to share about his past and things that he would have gone through as a young man, to share where he is as we're talking about crime and violence. And it's always important to have somebody on the show that would have gone through something or the experience that they would have had, so that we bring real life experience. So again, we want you to tune into the debrief. We want you to have the conversation with us. As I said, we're talking about crime and violence, and we want to share as much as possible. And you have Mr. Mario Bruce in the gray and black shirt. You have Mr. Damani Small in the baby blue shirt. Kimar Stewart is next to me. I'm Kimar Safri, and Mr. Simon Allen, the one and only Simon Allen. Simon says. So we're talking about crime and violence today, and again, we want your inputs. It's not just about us, it's about the whole works. So we really want your input as much as possible. So please join us as we
comment saying the video is better than the Senate press conference.
Well, thank you. We try to bring good video. All times. So thank you very much. Again, we're here to discuss crime and violence. So guys, welcome. We're going to be joined by Mr. Objective Jermaine Beckford. Pretty shortly, we may have to make ourselves small, but we need his objectiveness on the show.
Objectivity, that's true.
Yes. And we have Mr. Kieran Henry in the back.
Kieran.
Always giving us good technical support. So yeah, so basically we've been hearing crime and violence in Barbados going on. We've seen it on a rise this year as it relates to school children. The murder toll in Barbados has really surpassed even last year.
That's right.
Which is really shocking to a lot of people that our murder toll is so high as a small state. The school children are out of hand as it relates to violence.
So many violence, yeah.
They're just being, I don't know if they're more angry than I was in my school days. Their behavior is not as engaging as before. You can't really tell them anything anymore. You tell them how they want to cuss you. You tell them boy they want to cuss you.
You gotta be careful, boy.
And it's really affecting our society. And we want to know what is really the issue that you, the viewers, think that is going on with our young people of today. But we also want to hear, of a past issue. That's why we brought Mario, and I'll share my short life on how I was going to school, and you guys could share it as well.
Yeah, that's right.
But Mario is here with us, and he would have been a guy that would have been caught up in some stuff, and we really like to get Mario's story and perspective. So Mario, welcome to the show, and if in 5 minutes you can just give us a brief history about you and what's your past like, and let's hear it.
Well, and first of all, let me thank God through Christ for being here today, making me a worthy candidate to be on this show, because a few years back, you guys would be talking about me as it relates to crime and violence.
Right.
Because that was basically part of my history, part of my past, growing up in a dysfunctional home where my father was arrested and left Barbados illegally. Then my mother became a single parent, and stresses on single parents, we know how that can go. Having 6 children at the time, it was hard for her, and my upcoming was basically an environment where I saw drugs, violence, you name it, and that sowed a seed in me from very early. So as soon as I passed for LSD secondary school, I began to manifest the activities that I saw as a young child, and I gave up my academic ability to smoking, drugs, and living on the blocks, and that in itself began to grow something like an ego within me, and along with the music, as well. I was a Cartel fan, a Gaza fan, so me and my friends, we were Arga, Gaza, and Gali. Those who like Nevada would be on Nevada side, those who like Cartel would be on Cartel side. But I got involved in drugs, and when I held my first gun, that placed a macho-ness inside of me, holding my first gun, and from there it was a kind of attitude of dominance among my peers, among different crews and ghettos, I have a tattoo in my skin of my former group. It was called the 11th Crew, young, still in school, but very much involved in crime, violence, and drugs, and you name it, so it basically was a place in me where I began being comfortable in this environment, and being comfortable, feeling as though it is good to display these acts of violence. It makes you state who you are and allow people to know, well, this is who I am. So be careful if you're coming near, in a sense, as it relates to violence. I've been in gang wars, where wars broke out at the side of my mother's house. At that time, she lived in a little wooden house in which I took residence in, and it was a shootout. My mother was in that house with her young children, and when I got home, uprights in the house wet from the gunshots, and she was in there lying down, and basically it just the anger and the vengeance of living that life begins to pile up as you continue in that life, as you continue to take part in it, because along with some of the older generation and how we see them making a mark, because in my community, which is the Haynesville community, coming up as a young man, I saw many bloodshed. I've seen many died. You know, I've walked out on the street and saw friends laying in blood from gunshots. You know, we lost a lot, whether it be stabbing, whether it be big rock chopping, you name it. I've seen all forms of violence in my community, and it have always been a case where it continues to unfold from generation after generation. For some reason, this is the attitude that the youth begin to perceive and begin to take up, because it is their surrounding, it is how they handle situations. You know, I've seen, just the other day, I've seen a case where two young children were playing in the park, and these were like 5-year-olds, primary school children. So apparently they had a disagreement, one hit the other, and when the mother came out, she came out and she told the child, take up that big rock and lick down somebody. So how in those cultures and the settings of what we call the ghetto families, how we handle conflict, it is not peace. Peace is not the first approach, or working out, you know, and it's vice versa. Not saying that that's the wholesome of it, because there are some situations that are resolved in peaceful manners.
Right.
But when we see a child having that kind of backative from a parent, anybody hit you, hit them back. Then as you grow, that is your fundamental attitude towards any conflict. Somebody hit you, whether it be by mistake, if you're playing and you happen to get hit, you don't see it as a mistake, but you see it as a form of, that body hit me and offend me. So that was basically my background. You know, I've been in a headlock with a gun to my head already for situations that I wasn't even a part of. I've witnessed my friend being shot twice. We were just at a backyard party lineman, you know, this guy came through the backyard with his gun in his hand, and he was looking into people's faces, making me feel intimidated, and he stepped on my friend toe. And we didn't have the guns at that time, because at that time I used to roll with the weapons, you know, but we just went out, have our little Guinness or little weed, and from an argument, it was about 5 gunmen, and this crowd started to form, and then 2 men of the crowd began to shoot. And I witnessed my friend being shot twice, you know, and they had to rush him to the hospital. He and his mother making last wish. He called his mother in the back seat of the car, making last wishes. With the grace of God, he's still alive today, but it was on that point my life changed after I encountered Christ, and I saw a different picture to life and how to approach crime, because, you know, since I've been in Christ, crime came to me, you know. Situations came when I felt as though the old man should have acted, but because of a new life and a new leadership over my life, I was able to handle situations different, you know. One time I heard a younger sister of mine, I heard that some men, you know, went around her with some folly, and I was pretty much 3 years, 4 years into my Christian walk. But when I heard that, it reached me so deep that I went on the block, and I told him, you know, if I find out that what I'm hearing and you guys are taking advantage of my sister, you know, I'm gonna do such and such, you know, but you know, I'm gonna lick up somebody, you know, because it really hit me deep within. So after that, the Holy Spirit then convicted me, and I went back on that same block, and I apologized to everybody that I said that into the presence, in the presence of them, you know, and allow them to know that as a human being, you know, we still get angry, but as the word of God says, be angry and sin not. So I went and I made it right, because who knows, it could have been different. You know, even though it may be walking the Christian walk, they may be made that saying, "Boy, you Mario come here and the real crow, so we gotta watch you." They're compassionate about their souls, still desire peace in the community.
That's right.
And such things like that. So that's I mean, 5 minutes can never sum up the things that I experienced.
Yes.
But
We can imagine.
for the show, for the show's sake and time, that's just a snippet of what we experienced today.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I mean, thank you, Mario, for sharing a real powerful testimony. And again, we're discussing crime and violence today.
Correct.
And we always have this rigorous show, but today's crime and violence, and we thought to brought Mario here to share his life story about crime and violence. One thing he told at me is that for years we have been hearing fatherlessness or whatever has been major cause, or the block has more love than home. But what I think hit me harder today was the fact that Mario was saying that already the fundamental to some of the reasons where we behave is that your mom or your dad is saying if somebody hit you, hit them back. So it's not only that the fatherlessness or whatever, or the love lost at home, but you already gas up to when you go to school. If you hit me, I can hit you back. Because my mother or my father said
It's okay to hit you
back. And then as a child now you develop that hit back attitude and taking it for nobody. So I can be able to lash out at anybody that do me anything. So I think those were fundamental things to see some of the reasons why we have our young people behaving the ways they're behaving to, not only fatherlessness but also the fact that you're gassed up to go to school. So I really think is a real powerful testimony that Mario shared. And what we want to encourage you, the viewers and the listeners, to do is share any views, any questions you may have for Mario, any questions you may have for here. For us on the show, let's have an engaged conversation. Is that a question up there? Touching story, okay. Yeah, it was a very touching story. So I'm going to open for the panel, for all of our guys to ask some questions. And just let's discuss the whole issue of violence in its entirety.
Yes. Just to touch a little bit on what you said at first. In our younger ages, when we not becoming social creatures, there's always specific kids who take on different personality roles within society. Now, usually, what we call the bullies, or the persons who seek to unfair others, are usually persons who go through traumatic experiences in the households. And the bullies are the ones who are usually go through severe corporal punishment at home. They're abused physically, sometimes sexually, and they sometimes attempt to mask that abuse when they come into society with a macho feel to actually deter persons from actually unfairing them within societies. And the kids who can know themselves from early tend to differentiate themselves from the ideologies of their parents.
Correct.
Sometimes if they're strong enough to fight it off, but then the ones who are vulnerable and who have that vulnerable mindset usually take on the influence from their parents and then seek to be something that they are not, and waste significant periods of their life coming on to say around 11 to 15. I myself was, I would say, quote unquote, troublesome at school. Never violent to the point of, but I would say restless, and
it happens.
But I had a friend as well too who died at the hands of gun violence. He was what I would call a more well-endowed person. He was never hungry. He was never. He had everything. He was kind of more fortunate than the others at school, and that gave him a very dominant personality at school, where he felt that he could have unfaired anybody at school. So a lot of the kids who he bullied at school were very fearful of him because he was very big, and he had one of those real angry faces as well. So when he left school, he took that personality into the real world, and he batoned on some persons who were not having it. So for years and years and years, although we parted ways, I could always hear through the grapevine that he's still with this bully thing. He's still trying to bully persons in society, and it's only going to be a matter of time before a bigger bully comes along. And so said, so done. Somebody just eased up on the back of him and just shot him about 20 times, stabs and everything. And he was around a crowd about 20 persons, and all of them ran and left him. And I think up to today, his murder is still unsolved. But just to cap off the issue, if he had a different personality as it relates to not being a bully to persons and not feeling that he could unfair persons, I think persons would have been more inclined to assist with the investigations and bring some type of closure, because he left a young daughter as well. Right? He had her shortly after he left school. So all of these are things that actually festers into crime and violence.
But how do we deal? I mean, so I know you're in the education system. How do we deal with that? You have, like, my part is I know clearly what was a bully because I was a bully. I mean, when I left school, I was banned from my school 10 years after I left school.
Jeez.
You know, so
we get by school,
you know, I mean,
You're a notorious bully.
I was a notorious, but I mean, to the fact that I went to meet the Queen, I was helping the homeless, I was awarded all over the world. I went to every secondary school, every primary school, speak on every platform, except my school. So I understood that, because my thing is, like your friend that was rich going to school and I had it all, I had none. So I took away to
Robin Hood.
you know, Robin Hood to feed the poor,
Help-
you know,
help yourself.
help myself.
yourself.
But I invested money as well. At that time I would have taken the money and bought like lollies and bobbies and kind of
yes.
But the thing is, the school didn't want me after, because the principal vowed never to let me step foot back in the
Good
school,
dear.
even though she've only met me once in her life.
Good dear.
You know, the principal never met me because my principal was on retirement. And when I was sent home for a month, the new principal come. I thought that obviously new principal, I could slice in there and shape it. The old principal gone. But when I got in, the new principal was like, fell too far. I don't want you here.
Good dear.
And the thing is about the bullying part is that you being at school, it was fine to me because I at school. But I going into the real world now,
Can't bring that.
nobody ain't gonna think of you as no schoolboy no more.
Can't
And
bring that.
when I came out, probably about 2-3, it took me about, I came out at 17, probably took about 2 years, 3 years to change my life around and know that mindset, because I realized that if I was fighting at school with schoolboy, like I said, I was in school uniform, I was fighting against a big man, they would if at me. I said, you, if you wasn't a schoolboy, what's your head? But when you get in the real world now, this man still is another man,
You
the
hurt.
boy holding back,
You
everybody
hurt.
pulling, right?
You're hurt, boy.
So at the end of the day, how do we then look at our young people that may not have had the opportunity I have, whereas I quickly saw that my ignorance and my attitude
Had to change.
had to change because the real world wasn't taking it, or looking at Kimar Stewart friend and saying, well, if you don't change that way, you don't change that attitude, you don't change that attribute, you end up like Kimar friend, 20 shots and 20 stabs, and you did. How anybody think that there's a solution to fixing it?
I personally think that the solution probably can start at home and is with the parents. Unfortunately, we have all these classes to study all these things. There's no classes for parenting or teaching parenting.
But Paradox has offered some classes for
They do?
parents. Yeah, Paradox does, yeah.
Okay.
Paradox and
But we got. I think it needs to be more.
yeah, I agree.
Meet the men to be more in public.
And I think, sorry, with the PTAs, I need to cut you. But the PTAs through the Parent Teacher Association as well.
Beckford drop in here.
Yeah, come in Bedford.
We joined by Jermaine Beckford, Mr. Objective.
Come in, superstar.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes,
Right. So the Parent Teachers Associations too don't only talk about the performance of students, but also they try to give tips and encouragement to parents to cope with stress. I think
but
the
the
thing
next
that
thing is that not many parents attend parent
I agree.
association.
But you know,
Not even PDs.
Not even PDs.
Yeah.
But you know what the problem is? The real problem too, I think, is that there is a higher level of stress on the people across the board. This is globally too. If you watch videos, you go World Star, Hip Hop, everybody that's wailing out, everybody is just getting upset and angry. For some people it's fashionable, some people do it for likes, but there's some people, I would say that even for the single parents, like, imagine how your mother felt, you know, having to deal with the children and the situation. The higher levels of stress affect people negatively. Everybody can't cope. Everybody can't cope. So a man that may have pressure at home or he's unemployed or whatever, it can manifest in society where he says, you know what, I ain't getting through. I will kill if anybody cross my path today. I dread anybody touch me. Anybody says I don't want to hear. I can hurt them.
You got 2 points.
And
About
let's-
that.
Sorry.
Okay, don't feel free, guys, just to jump in with your questions and this suggestion as it relates to how do we deal with our people as it relates to solutions.
Somebody says mediation. That's Silos Ricardos. He said mediation is good.
Yes, I have 2 points to me.
Yeah, man.
To say. To be fair, at the school I went to, right, which was the St. Michael School, we had a lot of programs and a lot of opportunities for
Yes.
persons to change their lives around. We had persons coming into the schools, speaking to us. We had opportunities to go off campus to have counseling and what's not. We had an excellent guidance counselors program. We had an excellent principal who would pull you on side and chastise you to change your behavior. Deputy principal. It was a team
Structured.
effort.
But
So
let
if
me
you
ask you.
wanted to-
Let me ask you a question.
I'm not sure she's still here, but she was actually.
The problem I see sometimes is using the same method
To
for,
reach.
across the board for reaching everybody.
Mm.
I think one of the good thing that we could look to do is where we get to the homes, the intervention, because as I realized St. Michael, because my little girl goes St. Michael, is that even if she goes and say I suicidal, or she goes and make any comments like around even her peers, and it gets back to a teacher, they have to go into there's intervention. At my school where I went to at St. George, I could have said and jump off the building somewhere would probably tell me go long. You understand? So
You was a bad behavior.
well, it was bad behavior, so they probably wanted me to. But at the end of the day, you find that there's different levels of intervention at different
At
schools.
different schools.
Where
Yes.
I think now that it needs to be all encompassing and standardized. That if children are, because you don't, in America, obviously we see people taking guns and shooting people
That's
when
right.
they get to that depression stage. But our students here probably know more to lash out than to
Yeah.
kill themselves or kill somebody else. So I think that even when you look at that, I think that we need
Well
to get
said.
into the school, into the homes, and start to hold the parents accountable. Because if you go into an environment where the child is being abused, raped, or molested, or whatever, you need to get in there with the police. You need to get in there with child care board and start to rough up the house so that to make sure that the child doesn't take on. And then, because my reason for lashing out at school being a bully was because I was getting $6 to go to school. $4 was for bus fare, $2 to do it, and it was a free school means at that time. So I felt obligated that is no way Kimar store should get $10 and then Kimar have to get $6. So
You get feet 10.
you go every thing. So I just show you that those are reasons that nobody don't understand.
Good. So I'm glad that you made that point. Now, transfer all you just said to a more mature perspective where the guys, well, I don't like to say the block are all stereotyping, but
Why is it stereotyping?
because not all guys that are on the block do it, so you don't
Correct.
have to. But great, so every transfer that level of thinking, now, you say no, you're watching persons who are more fortunate in society, driving past,
Resentment.
sitting down, skinning up the face at you. People, you see a girl, she looks nice, you like her, but she's not on your level, and her parents are telling her don't ever talk to him because he looks good.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I get you. It's
And then,
rough.
and then society's heaping that pressure on you, so you felt depressed at school, now you felt depressed out here, and all of these things are coming. You don't have much education.
Yeah,
There's
and a
not
job.
much opportunity for
Yeah,
jobs
employment.
to uplift yourself, and somebody comes and give you a gun. Like, as Mario said, you feel macho now, you feel empowered.
Got status.
So you got other men around you pushing this vibe too. Bam, you shoot a man. By the time you shoot a man, you get a girl.
You're shocked.
Man, you go jail.
weed.
Man, come out, you get a girl.
You get a car.
Man, you get a car. Man, bringing
Get a car, yeah.
weed and
You
all
get a
sorts of
party
things.
after you come
You
to
get a
jail.
party.
And
You
then
get
go shots in your
a
team.
big chain. You get clothes, and you feel empowered now. So
You probably shoot another man.
you shoot another man. So when people respect you now, and you get empowered now, a sense
right.
of belonging. You get money, all the things that you wanted, essentially, because it was more feasible to get it that way as opposed to going to
normal
the
route.
traditional way, which
True.
is very strenuous on people.
Especially
So,
young people.
for young people. So essentially, we have to fix the channels to what we would say upliftment, and I think the system essentially has to plan around that as opposed to creating not creating criminals, but creating criminal minded people.
Correct. You got a comment from
Yeah.
Lisa
But
Moore.
it's on
Nice show, guys.
Oh, thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa.
Yeah, you see, first of all, we must understand the root causes of why children act in violence.
Give us some root
Right.
causes.
And we must understand that when we say children is an entire being. Usually society try to look at a kind of physicality programming to deal with issues that are deeper than just the physical.
I get
you
it.
know.
Yeah.
More holistic, the holistic approach.
Yeah, so our youth today, they're not being exposed to the level of teaching, not only just physically but spiritually, understanding that within them, you know, the holistic being of who they are. Because we have children today that just living like life, they don't even understand the direction they're
Purpose.
going in. You know, so there are causes of broken homes when a single mother has that stress and that stress is upon her, the way she interacts with that child,
Not very much
I've
more,
seen
much
it.
more
Yeah,
aggressive.
yeah.
So
No, it's
more
the fact.
aggressive, you know?
It's the fact.
shouting at the child, come here, you
I
know,
tell you,
slap
slap
the
on
child,
your heads and-
you know, drag the child.
no,
And
this
from
call
there,
it
that
stress.
child-
She's stressed.
But
She's
Mario,
stressed.
would you agree if I said to you that a single mother doing that, probably because she herself is still a child, and the person who probably raised her was also a child?
Or
Well,
child
I've
waiting.
seen it. Well, I've seen it not only because we know we got a lot of children that have children today, you know.
Sad
Some
man.
have-
But I've seen
Some
it
don't deserve, they
from
got none.
I've seen it from mature.
Yeah.
Yes, it mature women.
where pressure,
The stress,
pressure
stress
of
of
life
life. The stress of
has
life.
caused them to respond in ways that this child then goes out and
does.
display the same behaviors amongst their peers.
And probably when they
And-
get a child, they display the behavior of
and
the
like,
child.
Yeah.
and like Kimar Stewart said, there is a level of celebrating violence in the school level. They may not get a car, but
Right.
you know,
Ranks,
you,
boy.
you may
Ranks.
get ranks. You know, everybody following you. You leading this
most girls.
big crowd, the girls. You know, the school
Yeah.
girls like that. You know, so then one of the things that we have to look at is to bring in our children to a knowledge, you know, of this type of behavior. If it is accepted among your peers, you have to know that a greater one than your peers is not acceptable. And
Or
I find
change
that
your
that's
peer group.
where I find that there's where the children are lacking, because we live in a time where to tell children about a relationship with God,
It's not.
people
yeah.
people automatically say you can't force religion down the children's throat.
Hmm.
But this music forcing violence down
Down
the
the
throat.
throat.
The
Yeah, I agree.
movies forcing violence down
and
the
all
throat.
kinds of like
Facts.
styles too.
The boss men on the block forcing
The
the
drugs.
behaviors down the throat. And we sit and we say, you can't force religion, let it get big and make their own choices. And while we see that, we see more children going on that path. You understand? And then mothers are at the court crying.
Too late.
But what
You
about
know?
I always made this suggestion, and I made it in the past, and I'll probably make it again here. Again, please feel free to join us. Ask us any questions if you have
Someone
solutions.
is coming.
It's a preach. I think it's a preach.
Yeah,
Preach,
Sharifa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that we have to look at too, I always said that I think there's this time in Barbados where we start to hold parents accountable. I mean,
I agree.
I know
through
legally.
the,
I know
through
legally
the
that work,
traditional
but-
system. Because here's what: if you could find, and I mean proper system. Let's say, for example, if I'm to go into a home and I realize that the home is full of violence, or the mother or father, whoever in the home is promoting violence,
Or
and say go
bad.
here and bust somebody and go here and do this, and it could be proven from within the home, then I think that if you are creating little teas or you're creating little whatever minions about here,
No murderers.
or future murderers, then you should
Thugs.
go. You know, when it's funny that when I was reading the paper, when you read the paper regularly, or you see the what they
Court.
call the line, you know, when you're coming out of court and that's called the high line. Hi, yes, love you, whatever. You find that the faces are the younger ones going there, 18 and 19
And
and
they seem
20,
happy.
and they seem happy.
They get respect.
so
It's
what-
about image, right?
Why you mother and father can't throw you down there too? Because if you, as long as you bring this child into the world, you're in charge of that child to a particular age.
True.
I'm not saying when the child get an adult age that you gotta deal with it, but at the end of the day, when the child is between those 16 and you going to school, and you seeing when obviously I privy to let's say on the school board, and you hear these children come into rooms and you see, you know, the behavior and the glorifying and the work they do and the thing they do, and then when you go down to the school, you hear that it belongs to this group called the click, and and they're good because I got back and you do the same. My group coming for you, and and parents coming into rooms. I said, I talk to she, I do this. I can't control she. I can't control. You mad?
It's called a nuisance parent scheme, right?
Well, if the nuisance parents sending out to nuisance jail.
Fair enough.
But
that's one.
the
That's
parent
one
may not
aspect.
May not know no better.
That's it.
And that's where I said the intervention come from.
Yeah, the child care
When
board
you
plays a
when the
role.
child care board, you bring in the child care board, and you also bring in the guidance counselors. Go ahead. We have a comment.
Do you guys believe this from Sharifa M? Do you believe that the bad behavior from children isn't spiritual?
I believe it's spiritual in some level.
Some people will
I
argue
don't
that.
believe it's
Some people will
spiritual
argue
in some
that.
level.
But what I
I
also
disagree with that.
you know
What
it's
is
learned
this?
behavior. It's learned behavior.
It's
Then.
learned behavior.
Learned and spiritual.
Okay.
But spiritual is also learned.
Okay. Take this factor into consideration. The majority of persons doing crime are going to jail are from a certain cross section of schools on the island.
A certain
And
areas.
socioeconomic background.
No. Not to say that persons from like Sandy Lane and Westmoreland, those places do not commit crime.
Probably
Just
don't
not
hear
caught.
about them.
You probably don't hear about
That's what called a
Just
crime.
not caught.
That's what called a crime.
But let's be realistic. If we do a census of the schools of persons in jail, there are
You get
certain
six
schools that
schools.
are outstanding
Six.
as it relates to filling these jails. So something needs to be said about that.
There was actually a statistic that was done in jail, and it proved that from within 6 secondary schools
Mostly
in this country,
mostly jail population.
was jail population. 6 secondary schools.
Wow.
So there was one that was done.
Yeah.
I want to bring something before here. We missing in these schools as well. If you talk to a lot of teachers, and it is a serious thing that needs to be done in Barbados, a lot of children are suffering with mental illnesses in our schools.
Boy.
And you know,
We not yet identified mental illness.
Right.
and you know, we sit and we criticize when it like take a child who goes into a school and steals chalk, and then he moves from stealing chalk to stealing the teacher's money with her purse or his
Or the
purse,
cell phone.
right? Then a cell phone.
Yep.
We never really sit down to examine the fact that the child might have a mental illness.
But the thing about it is that on a different perspective, you know that it's also said that mental illness is caused because of the same spirituality we think you're talking about.
We can associate spirituality and mental illness.
Yes,
Yes,
you
you
can.
can.
Because I remember me that worked at Psychiatric Hospital, and I remember only a couple of days ago I was thinking, I was like, you know what, there's a particular client. One occasion you'll come, he talk to you good. The next couple minutes, he's a total different man. And when based upon what I learned now, and what I understand things to be, I come to the conclusion that he had some form of demonic spirit in him. The reason why he acted the way he acted, it was. I mean, if you see the expression on his face, if you see how he acted in that room,
Totally
there
changed.
was a gentleman we could have never ever let out of his room, never ever. And if you see it for yourself and you understand spirituality, you understand what demonic spirit is, you could see it in that same guy.
Wow.
Well, I may tend to disagree, but you know, we are known to agree to disagree.
Yes.
That's why we like Mr. Objective.
And another thing that we also have to look at.
There's a comment. Sharifa M was saying, well, we are controlled by spirits, according to her opinion. We're
Okay.
controlled by spirits.
Her opinion. Another thing that we also have to notice is that a lot of children are autistic.
A lot.
Yeah.
But are we equating
Yes.
the autism to violence?
No,
Because
but-
I'm still yet to see.
But hold on.
I still yet to see
hold on,
There's a
autism.
spectrum of
People
autism. There's a spectrum.
Hold on. Let's be
I
realistic.
don't understand the mental
Right,
problem.
Let's be realistic. If you got a child in school and the teachers, say you're a teacher,
Mhm.
so you would understand.
Mm.
You got a child in school. The child, you are trying to teach the child.
Right.
Some of the teachers are not actually trained to deal with children with autism.
With special needs. They're
Right,
called
with special
special
needs.
needs.
So
Special
special
needs.
So let's rule out
Right,
autism
so
as a special need.
yeah, so it's a special needs. So some of the teachers are not actually trained to deal with children that are suffering, that have special needs.
Mm.
So the teacher is in class teaching. You got a child who's being noisy, or
Hyperactive,
disruptive,
so on.
hyperactive, whatever you want to call it, And the teacher says, and this is another thing too, in Barbados, class sizes are too large.
Yeah, we know that for sure.
Right.
Especially in public school.
Right?
We do.
So the Ministry of Education needs to get their act together.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that one of the things that, in with regards to, I don't mind the large classroom.
Question?
What is helpful is, what was also helpful is the teaching assistant. Most private schools have a teacher
Yeah.
and a teaching assistant who is able to prepare materials and to help maintain.
Follow that one child
Yeah,
for remedial
yeah,
purposes.
yeah, exactly. Able to what I would say more sheriff the classroom better
Yeah.
and look for the children that have needs.
But not in
But not in the public school system.
It do to some very small, like certain what I recognize is certain subjects do have one or two teachers, but what they're not doing is they're not. To me, in some cases, they're not cooperating together to realize that you may be a remedial teacher versus the teacher that might lead the class. I think what I feel over the years is that I think that greater emphasis within the Ministry of Education needs to be put onto these lower schools.
I don't want to pause you. but-
Well, different schools, modern schools.
We have some comments
Yeah.
here.
Go ahead.
Right. Well, Sharifa, and she's saying, well, Jermaine, my brother, is autistic, and he's a top student, and he has never been a violent person or necessarily bad behaved. And that because too, Sharifa, is because
It's a
autism
spectrum.
is a spectrum. So in other words, you got high function autism and you got very low function
Yeah.
autism.
I have an autistic brother as well, so I could agree with her in some sense. I wouldn't necessarily link autism to violence and crime. I find
I would link the mental health though.
well,
But
we-
maybe
I mean, that's how I feel about drug use.
No,
yes,
no.
that's where it was going.
But-
I want to tell you
That's
this
gonna do
about
the
mental-
nonsense.
I want to link mental health and drug use
Mhm.
and crime together.
All right, let me touch on that mental health first.
Y'all never let me
Wow.
finish my point, though.
All right,
Sorry, go ahead, Jermaine. Go ahead, Jermaine.
sorry, Jeremy.
You have the floor, sure.
I let y'all talk.
Oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead, brother. Your turn, that's right.
Can you sum us up everything in like 1 minute? Go ahead.
So, you have a child in a classroom. The teacher is teaching 30 students, and of the 30, you got 2 or 3 who are being disruptive.
Mm-hmm.
The teacher feels within him or herself, you know what, I really can't deal with these 2 or 3
You
because
got
I got
the syllabus.
27
You got syllabus
that
to
I
teach.
need to get taught.
They get put up.
Right? So if it, as you said, the man,
I get put out.
Either get put out,
I get put
or
out.
they get put in back in class.
Correct.
I get
Right?
better when I do nothing.
Nobody ever sat down
Probably.
and thought, you know what, probably this child has a serious issue that we need to address. So the child moves from one class to the next.
You get into the system.
Yeah, and then when you get the 11 plus, and that's another headache in itself. Let me just get this child in the
There we
beginning.
go.
Child goes to secondary school, teachers relay the complaints from the primary school to the secondary school. This is who you got
Profiling.
Profiling.
That's what happened to him.
Don't like to read the
Profiling.
shame. Parents don't like to read the shame of having a child.
So that
quote,
challenge,
unquote,
special.
slow,
Slow.
because society has this thing that
Yes.
if you they can directly hit at the parent can't take the pressure that can come
Right.
from all
But you know what they
parents.
should do at orientation?
What?
Start doing baseline assessments at orientation.
I agree.
If you could do baseline assessment at orientation, because don't forget, a lot of teachers in Barbados are not trained past teaching.
I
So
agree.
they're not trained by how to identify mental health
But that's not our
problems.
job.
A lot of them are
What
No,
you
no,
said-
no, it's not your job, but
I
here's what.
won't say that. I
What,
won't
but
totally say
Simon,
that.
it's not your job because at the end of the day, that child is not that teacher is not trained in mental health. That's not your
No,
job.
exactly.
But
So
here's
that's
what.
not fair. We can't diagnose
That
it.
same child affects your entire
Right.
class. So what I'm just saying is at
Mhm.
some level where you, if I as a teacher seeing a student behave in a certain way, I should be able to write a report to the principal that to say I think that based on my observation of Simon Allen, I think that this child may need to have an
And that's
intervention.
done. And that is done.
And that is that. But
And
what I'm
then
just
the
saying.
process
Because
starts.
I figure
We do
that's
it.
where-
We
I
do
figure
it.
that's
Teachers do
where
it.
where a school counselor comes in.
Right.
But no,
As
not
in-
not
that-
only
yeah, that's
that.
what
Not
happens.
I know that
Then
you
it
have
goes to
the
the next level.
Right,
Eddie
that's
Nichols and
level.
stuff like that. You have Eddie Nichols and stuff like that, but Eddie Nichols
But that's
is
a
seen as a
problem.
punishment.
That is a problem.
Huh?
That's a problem.
Eddie Nichols.
Yes, it
because
is.
it's seen as a punishment, not because
You know again, huh?
and you know
You know
Eddie
again.
Nichols can provide assessment,
But
But it doesn't.
I was told I wanted to kill her from a
and it's a
a
glorified
deputy
moment to go
teacher
there.
that she necessarily she didn't like children because of whatever issue she had, problem she had.
Oh, dear.
She didn't like children. She told me one day she can send me at the Nickel Center. It's a me. Not me, but I had a lot of thought about that.
They want to send me dogs.
So they could come
Probably
in
say
and say
anyway.
that was like, and she could tell me,
You have
We
I'm
have two
supposed to
questions.
beat them at this particular time and
Right.
day at Queen's Park. It's not me.
But before we take the
Oh, we
question,
got very,
We got a very
very
long
No,
comment
but
here.
Tifa Ellis Antrobus. She said, guys, please address the persons who have been raised well and still go on to commit crime.
Yeah.
I find these discussions always focus on where parents and teachers fall short and the negative consequences of that. Could one of you please put forward another reason for crime and violence when where the individual has been raised and taught well?
What's the name again?
Kiefer.
Kiefer, we will come into that. Trust me, that ain't gonna be left out.
One thing,
And we gonna
That
talk
is
about
not
crime, but
going.
we gotta talk
But
about bills.
I wanted to touch on the fact that the mental health is associated with crime, and that's an important thing. In Barbados, especially within my work that I do, you do a lot of people in Barbados. You could be sitting next to Jermaine, and I do feel Jermaine has some sort of mental problem. Right? But at the end of the day, right?
Let me dispel.
I do, but no, you get don't dispel me yet. But at the end of the day, I may be trained to see that he has a mental problem. He's sitting among us, right?
He's a trained mental health person.
No, but he's sitting among us, and you don't know that because you don't know what the identify symptoms that he make. You understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
But put him in a setting,
Mm-hmm.
and you may be able to see that he had, they say, oh, we might to some degree.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you may be able to see that. But because a lot of people are not trained, somebody may come in the first couple of weeks in the school and behave normal.
Yeah.
And then when they get comfortable, now they start to be like, I never know he was so. Because you didn't understand, you didn't identify, and that's why I said the baseline
But you know-
assessment is
Right.
good.
You know, circumstances change at given times.
True.
Yeah, but that
Because-
doesn't negate that you can't pick it up or
No, I'm not saying not, but I mean, when you made the point that a child comes in one way, and then the child goes another way,
Maybe a trigger.
right?
There may be a trigger.
There are so many different factors
Somebody, yeah.
that can be causing that.
We
It
know.
could
Yeah.
be death in family. Father could go in prison. Mommy and daddy could be out of money due to unemployment. In some rare cases, and it happens, and this is one.
but that doesn't
children
necessarily
are-
has to do with mental. That's circumstantial.
No, right, but
I get you. Jermaine, your point is
right?
valid.
Children could be getting abused,
True.
Right.
and they're acting out.
I know. We know.
And
we know.
these are things that we need to really look at.
Some of it, because what we're talking about is the preventative part of
Right.
crime and violence.
Right.
But what we have not addressed yet that I would like to get into quite quickly is what we do with offenders. All right?
Yeah.
'Cause what we discussed so far is good because we have discussed the fact that, we identify that families, dysfunctional families, children that may have issues are more likely, according to the statistics, to commit crime. What Kiefer was saying too is that how can we account for those children?
Yeah.
'Cause in America, for example, you got the boys from the Columbine High School shooting who came from middle class families, who the parents had good jobs, but for some reason there was a trigger. It could have been the music, it could have been the violent video
Well,
games.
that's just a different culture altogether.
I know, but
Crazy culture.
True, it is true. But going back to the point, you may have children who may not come from a lower social
Yeah.
people, not even children. Let me just deal with adults, people who didn't have it rough, but for some reason get involved in crime.
I know you didn't have it rough. I know.
Well, I would like to start off here. I made the observation that the sons of pastors
And doctors too.
Yes, these persons tend to that's not rebel, but they come from higher social classes essentially, but they do find a ways into what we call ghetto communities to align with fellas on the block and get involved that way and get carried away. Now these persons have life quote unquote made for them, and the fellas on the block are sitting wishing that they can have a life like these persons, but still these persons are leaving their comfortable paths to come onto the block. Now I see a bit of that quite often in society right now. Still trying to figure it out in its totality, but I think it comes down to meaning of inclusion and the fact that a wide cross section of our kids in Barbados do not have that.
Don't feel acceptance.
Yes, and they need things like social inclusion, different peer groups, and then the fact that these persons do listen to what we call this or music, and then you develop a mentality where the only persons who may meet that for you is the persons who are on the block. So you leave your well-parted household, which is essentially not how you feel on the inside. Not if you could relate it to the quote-unquote transgender, they don't feel the same way on the inside. Right?
As if they're on the upside of external circumstances.
These persons don't feel, I would say, richy, middle class, upper class. They feel more quote-unquote get on a port, so they will go and be around these persons to feel at home and included simply to the fact that they don't feel this kind of knife and fork apron style is best for them, and they will see.
But every
comfort
get a
elsewhere.
flip side though. Having dealt with people, too much people in my little short lifetime, I've seen it as even prevalent in homeless. I've seen some people that were so wealthy, some really good names, family background tight, and I know got money just based on family. Not equating that because your family got money, you got money.
True.
But I know some people that even
Good
when
reason.
their family come to me, they say, listen, he don't gotta be on the street.
He choose.
He choose to be on the street, or he don't gotta be in this situation. He choose to be. From this perspective, in and among the young people, I got some young people that I know that are very wealthy as well, and they go down into the ghetto and they go down and take. And I ask them something like, "What's the reason?" And sometimes it's be the pure pressure coming from the family to be something
Success,
that they don't want to be, to do things that they don't. So I may say, my mother say, well, I run in the shop, you better gear yourself up to run the shop. And I mean like, I want to gear the shop, especially as it relates to even university. I have a friend that high society again, her parents forced her to go and study this big engineering degree.
She don't want to do it.
But even though she went and do it, that's what she wanted to do. She just want to be she. You
Want whatever
understand?
that
Just
is.
want whatever that is.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, she found that the only comfort that she could get away from this high life or this way of thinking from my folks is to just go down with people that don't think no way.
All right.
The way people that just
I want
the way
to
people
hear
just themselves.
Mario has to say at this point.
Based on what you said a while ago about if a child may have a mental challenge if it steals a piece of chalk and stuff and things like that. I personally don't believe that a person has to be mentally disturbed or mentally challenged to do those things. You know, it comes out of a decision. It's almost like when a child is born, a parent may say, don't touch that. But that child disobey. Why? Because the reality is that we are born with a nature of rebellion within us.
Nature versus
right?
nurture.
And this is why this is why we have to not left out the spirituality among our children. Why I can tell you why I desire not to be a part of crime and violence no more. It's because I had that encounter with Christ. I had an inner change by way of spirit. And now there's an outer difference. You understand? For me, not wanting to be a part, I still live in Haynesville. I still basically and in the environment, I still go on blog and talk with you guys and stuff and things like that. But at the end of the day, I find that we don't really want to expound on the spiritual side of youth because we feel like we will be crushing people's corn and the sensitive to the whole talk about religion and all of these things. But where the truth and the reality fact is that a lot of the deviant behaviors behind the children, whether they be high class, whether they be poor society, is the fact that it is a spiritual disturbance within. And spiritual disturbance, I want you to know that depression is associated with the spirit. Oppression is associated with the spirit. Frustration, rejection, all these things are inner. All these things are inner challenges that the youth had, right?
Strongholds.
And when we try to bring all of these,
I can set you
Sorry,
straight.
keep on looking for any comments there?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, feel free to bring in your comments. We're here. I just
Corey
want to let
Lane,
it.
Corey Lane joined the.
Orlean, Mr. Lane.
Sharifa agrees with you 100%. Mario.
Correct. Just want to reiterate who we have on panel here. We have Mario Bruce, gentleman on my far. I don't know how your thing set, but raise your hand, Mario. We have the man is small, not Paris. Kimora Stewart, Jermaine Blackford, Kimora Shafi, Simon Allen, and again we welcome any comments, any feedback. Please share, please like, and engage us on the conversation as we deal with crime and violence. Yes, Kimora.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, right? But let's get real with it. There's more than one religion available to Barbadians at the moment. There's the Muslim religion. There's Hinduism as well, right? Let's give me here. And my thing is, I don't see many Muslim brothers engaging in violent crimes, right?
But we could agree that violence is among them.
Just hear me out. Right, I don't see many Muslim brothers doing crime in the sense that I would see our own black brothers doing crime, right?
The Muslims
So-
are black.
That's
Alright.
I just want
Try
to
to
hear
understand,
Kimar,
try to
and then I want to
Right.
just
Right.
respond to
So
his point.
so while I agree with you of it from a Christian sense, right? The Muslim will come and put his spin on it as well. So in you saying that, right? Do you agree also that we could apply Islamic principles to crime? Do you also agree that we could apply Hinduism to crime? Do you also agree that we could apply Buddhism to crime?
we could apply all religions, all religious
Not the extreme.
is to crime, right? What I find, and this is a trend that is going on, you see, because certain young men are in a position where they're less fortunate, I know there's a heavy movement of men joining the Muslim because the Muslim will
Give them
rent an apartment for them,
food, clothing.
clothe them,
Yeah.
everything, and these men is kind of like the dummies on behalf of the Muslims. It's a fact.
I have that even with my homeless community where I know homeless men are joining religions
To get
to gain. And not that the religion, we're not disputing whether or not the religion is bad or good, but I'm just saying that I found, even if you go into Bridgetown, a lot of the young boys that I know that are violent young men are actually, if you go like around 1 o'clock,
Yeah.
or riding on the way to the mosque and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
they're not really getting in it. Yes, especially with the Muslim, they teach peace and all of that.
Yes.
And it may timber them a little bit. I think
Yeah.
that the religion has been timbering them a little bit, but it's also to gain and to benefit
And
of what.
And we tend, and I don't want to stray too far from the whole aspect of, because it's about crime
Crime
and
and
violence.
violence, yeah.
That's
But
it.
we
That's it.
we tend to kind of highlight the behaviors or highlight the dysfunctions among the Christian community other than other religions.
Yeah.
It tends to be more highlighted. I've
And
been,
them only
But,
black.
but Mario, you know, Christianity is a religion rooted in violence.
Not,
All religions go
all
through.
religions
All religions go through.
go
some
through.
kind of
Christianity
violence.
is
without
very
straying,
rooted in
Yeah,
without
violence.
straying.
yeah, the Old Testament
What-
said that.
Let's be real.
But what I wanted to add to the
first
video,
of all, for me, I know that I wasn't whipped to be a Christian. I
It's a
know
choice.
that I wasn't,
It's free choice.
a
Free
gun
will.
wasn't to my head.
What that
I
means,
understand that.
Simeon.
I understand for me.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that the whole rooted in violence and stuff and thing, you know. I acknowledge the past, but in this time,
The dispensation.
in this dispensation,
Yeah.
it is
Mhm.
a conviction, acknowledging
Oh, shoot.
it is acknowledging that, hey, the life that I'm living, and I find that that's where our youth fall.
Yeah.
They're not coming to that place of looking within.
Mm.
Hey, who am I to society?
Mm-hmm.
Who am I to my mother? Those kind of intellect is not in our youth today, because it's just like if blinkers are on, they're seeing one thing. Let me look
Let me
good.
live. Let me
Let
let's
me
party,
let
have
me
fun.
let me party. Let me be the most rowdiest, because we getting cheer, we getting big up, we getting
likes.
boost up.
We getting
you
likes and
know?
follows.
And I find that this youth, the youth of today,
Yeah.
has a struggle with coming to a place where they are acknowledging.
they don't have any.
You mean the identity crisis?
But
The
that
identity
goes
crisis.
back to lack of leadership from within
In the
the home.
home, and then the community society.
Listen, I got agree with the Mario there. I mean on a personal level as well. You have a comment?
We had a couple comments from Sharifa.
What was the comment? Let me before you say my part.
Yeah, Sharifa was going on. She was saying, It doesn't, Kimara Stewart, it doesn't have to be religion, but spirituality is spirituality.
Yes.
Then keep forgive and never comment. Some of our youth, Mario, don't paint all with the same brush, which is true. But
we just said so.
I'm just speaking in a general.
In a general,
I understand what you're
saying.
saying.
I'm not speaking on the youth because I know there's a lot of youth out there doing good things, and then that's another problem. Because when the youth does good,
You don't highlight them.
you don't highlight them
As much,
You
yeah.
don't big them up. You
And
don't
that's the
see
show we
them.
got. That's the show
I-
we probably gonna do. Highlighting our positive youth.
I found that the video that circulated, I think it was last year, Time Flies So Fast, with the girl from Princess Margaret.
Yes.
That was a very touching video.
I
Once in a lifetime
really
video.
love the
Yeah,
fact that
she didn't retaliate.
I really
not.
love the fact that she was honored for not retaliating.
Very
And
good.
We should
I
do
was
that for more and
hoping-
more
Our
of
young
you.
people. But
I
keep
was
going.
hoping that it
Keep
would
going.
have an effect on the
Sure.
fact that teachers and society would begin.
I think
to,
the mistake we
to-
made, Mario, was to just do one
One.
person.
Yeah.
We actually have a
Yeah,
comment
we
here
should have
about
done
that.
that to several young people.
Keita said correct, Mario. The good is overshadowed by the bad. But guys, I want to jump in. No, I want to jump in because we've been talking
About the problems.
Yeah, we talk about the problems. Not necessarily problems. We talk about the youth. We focus a lot about the youth and the family and school.
Yeah.
And we've offered some solutions. But yeah, but what I wanted to say was that right now in Barbados we've had at least 37, 38 murders.
Before you move on to that, can we?
Let's not worry about that.
No,
Just-
I
No,
know.
we can get on that.
Violence.
But hold on,
We're talking about crime and violence.
just before
Tell me.
Simon move on to
Tell me.
the
Talk about
to the
crime and
adults,
violence.
we're talking about crime and violence all over. We ain't getting about in the break.
Correct.
This is what the debrief was all about.
Tell me.
Just before we jump forward, because we want our viewers to understand that we're talking about violence, but we also offer solutions.
Solutions.
Yes.
So some of those solutions that we would have offered
Family.
was family intervention. We need to look at our as it relates to the youth.
Guidance counselors
Our
in
guidance
schools.
counselors need to go into the homes. We need some early
Exactly.
baseline assessments within the school. Mental health is a big problem. So we
Spirituality.
need to identify that. I think you need to bring back a religious education.
Push
That was the
Christianity,
key.
make prayers
Make
bigger,
prayers bigger.
more dynamic.
Correct.
You think that prison is working?
Prison is working.
I asking you.
I know, yeah. Let me
We
get
can
the
get to that.
solution.
We
I
can
get
get
the
that. No.
solution
I
first.
want to talk
So,
about that. I want to talk about crime.
So I want for
Gun crime.
I want here for
What do you want to
our
talk
viewers before this get a little
know
heated.
what
You gonna get heated.
Right,
I want to talk about-
I know what
I
you
want
want
to
to
talk
talk
about
about.
it.
But hold on.
I want to talk about it.
Before we get heated about the other part of the other segment of the show, what I want you to do as well, if you think you have solutions that the ministry or the government themselves
Message, man.
message or put it on the page, leave it there because
This
we've
year.
had watch from the Minister of Education in our last
That's
during
right,
the charge of
education.
education.
That's right.
And we know that the viewing is going great.
And people will
we
share
really
it.
thank- and people will share it. But leave your comments, send it here, put it, because what we want to do with our show is make sure any solution that
Yeah.
comes through, we put it forward to the powers that be. If they
Correct.
choose to listen, they choose
Fair
not to
enough.
And they
listen.
will not listen.
That's
No, so I think they will.
That's the
But there are a lot of different
But that is what we have to
agendas.
hear. You know? So yeah, so we want to look at it. Simon, go ahead.
Good, thank you. So what I want to talk about, what's the problem? What's the
I
problem?
want to hear what you want to say.
Well, give me a chance to say it.
Before you start, right?
Give me a chance to
You have
say
to
it.
go make gloves. Got it ready.
Come off your
I don't
gloves.
know
Let
how
me
you
go.
coming.
Remember
I'm talking
all
about
different views here.
All different views.
Yes, please go
Now,
ahead, Mr.
between 2018,
Yeah.
all right, the latter part of 2018 to now,
Mhm.
all right, we have seen an upsurge in gun crime in Barbados.
A continuation of
No,
what
no,
happened
no,
before.
no,
Hold on,
no.
Damani, hold
What,
on,
what
let
I'm
me do
saying is that for 2019, for this year alone, we've had a record number of murders. All right, we've had a record number of murders in this country.
Uh-huh.
Some have said it's because there are too many guns are getting on the street.
Mhm.
All right, the police, they've been trying their best. They've been doing stop and searches. We've been seeing the viral videos, police pulling over guys, finding weed, finding guns, finding ammunition within vehicles. All right. Now, what I'm saying to you
The
guys,
murder rate is 32.
murder rate 32 right now.
Trying to over exaggerate as usual.
No, that's January 24th. The murder rate was 32.
I have the murder map on my phone.
Right, you can
Yeah,
give me the
go
murder
ahead.
map. No, man, trying to exaggerate. If a
Yeah,
man
don't
get
exaggerate.
killed by a gun, he get killed by a gun. Ain't trying to exaggerate nothing. I'm not trying to point fingers at anybody
A
either.
comment? Yes, Mr. Simon Allington, please read the comment.
Yes. Is it due to economic times? Well, we can talk about that now, Sharifa.
Let's talk about it.
Now, because at the end of the day, let the brief begin.
Let me read
There,
the
read the word to Mickey Mar Stewart, my learned colleague.
we had 2 murders in St. Lucie,
Mhm.
0 murders in St. Peter, 1 in St. James, 15 in St. Michael,
Mhm.
2 in St. Thomas,
Mhm.
0 in St. Joseph,
Mhm.
0 in St. Andrew,
Mhm.
none in St. John, 8 in St. Philip,
There.
1 in St. George, and 5 in Christ Church.
What's the total?
They were guns, then guns.
Guns. This is guns. This is guns.
I didn't add them up.
I'm gonna get back to you. Go
But
ahead.
let me
Let us
continue.
continue. Hold on.
That's really 30 something.
I got
No,
moderated session.
yeah, of course you have to, but it's okay. What I'm saying now, but it's evident. It is evident that, and statistics show it. The minute you see a downturn in the economy, there is also a correlation with violence.
Increasing.
If people,
Where did
if
it-
people,
where did
if
it
people,
begin?
can I start? Can
Yes,
I
sir.
continue?
What year did
If
it
people,
begin?
if people cannot get access to jobs, to employment, if the unemployment rate is still high, if the unemployment rate is still high, if people are being sent home, if people don't have access to jobs, you're going to find that people are going to go into the informal sector. And the informal sector may be as simple as selling coconuts, or you know, wherever you go, you're seeing lots of people selling stuff.
Alright,
People
yeah.
selling stuff.
No,
But then,
hold on,
but then
Wait, get real with this thing, right?
I get rid of it.
A lot of men get shoot over teeth and other men read to them.
Of course, we get to that.
Gang on gang.
So it might be, but not all the murders is gang related to. We can't always
But a
assume.
large percentage of the murder was gang
But we
related.
can't say that all gang related. So
We're not saying
so
all.
the ZR driver that get shoot, but it was partly fine, and the brain man that get shoot, they're in gangs too.
No, we don't really say not all
Okay,
of us.
well, okay. So let me continue my point.
Go
You
ahead.
cannot dispute the fact that whenever there is a downturn in the economy, there is a correlation with crime.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I cannot respond to Simon.
What you want to know? Oh, it started from 2018. It started under the last administration. That's what we say.
Simon, I'm
It started under the last administration.
Yes,
Has it gotten
hold on,
better?
hold on,
But has it gotten better?
Hold on.
Has it gotten better, Kimar?
Simon,
Has it gotten better?
Simon, let me speak. You have been given the floor.
Thank you, sorry.
To
Go ahead.
shout
Go ahead, Mr. Beck.
No, no,
and
to
yell
shout.
as bad as you
I don't
are,
want to
right?
yell bad, it's
And
true.
I will not allow you to sit down here
Tell me.
and tell these blatant
With
lies,
your red shirt on.
right? With a red shirt
It's
on
not right.
that,
This is-
and get me with it. Now, you are. I see the angle that you trying to go from, right?
Which is clear.
Right?
I see the
Hold on,
passion.
no,
I see
Damani,
the passion
no,
of someone who's straight in the
Damani, let me tell you, Right?
Normally.
right?
Normally.
I understand where you're coming from.
But statistically, though,
Hold on, no, I understand where you're coming
the
from.
numbers don't lie.
Right? But
More
you-
people that get killed in 2019
Hold on,
than 2018.
hold on,
Yes,
Simon.
it's
Simon,
fine. Okay, good.
Simon, stop sticking on like you got a fishbone stick across your neck.
Okay, go ahead.
You
sir.
understand?
Go
ahead,
So
sir.
let somebody else talk
Go ahead.
and put
Go
in
ahead.
that
Go ahead,
perspective.
go ahead.
Let me hear your perspective.
You
It's
talk about
objective.
the 30-something murders that I had this year.
Murders alone. That's
Murders alone.
Not robberies.
I remember on one day in Barbados, 23 people were shot within a 500 meters radius.
Did it happen again
Right.
since then?
Hold on.
When that occurred? What year that occurred?
That occurred in 2018.
2017.
2017?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
At that time, which government was in power?
But no, let's
Government
not.
has-
I want
but the minute the Attorney General said it, no. The Attorney General alone said.
you
that
know,
the Attorney General.
answer my question.
Alright, hold on. I got moderate. No problem. Hold on.
We know the government that was in power then. But what I'm saying is that
But I am not
I
finished.
am not holding the Attorney General accountable for the crime that's happened in Barbados.
I am not.
But what I'm saying
We are holding them
is that
accountable.
what I'm saying is that we have a problem with the proliferation of weapons on the streets.
All right, let me.
We have a comment. Hold on. We have a
Let's
comment.
pretty
Go ahead to comment. 2 comments, Mr.
One comment.
Is it drug related?
Is it drug related?
The last comment is perhaps is due to the past administration. It probably just not caught up with us.
All
That
right.
might be true, Sharifa.
I wanna
But
make-
we have
hold
a
on,
new
hold on,
administration in
hold on.
Washington
Let me finish
that
what
should deal with it.
Let me finish what was
Go ahead,
saying.
Mr. Hold on. Let me moderate.
Let me-
Before I go ahead.
Yes, let me finish what I was saying first. All right. Now,
Get in 30 seconds.
yes, I will get in
Please.
30 seconds. We cannot just look at this issue as the murder rate in Barbados because, yes, Simon, we can't just look at it as the murder rate in Barbados
Why?
because police statistics have showed that crime in general has gone down. Murder has gone up, but crime in general has gone down.
Whoa,
Yes.
Right?
whoa,
Right?
whoa,
One.
whoa,
Number
whoa.
two.
What a spin. Wow.
Number two.
On the record.
Number two, what you have to recognize, Simon, is that instead of spinning top in mud and getting up and blaming
I
this
have not
government
blamed
and
anyone.
Hold on, no, but I know where you're going.
I have identified the facts.
But instead of trying to suggest that it is this body's fault
I'm
and
sure
that
it's
body's
nobody's fault.
what needs to happen, right, is we need to look at the crime situation in Barbados in a holistic manner. you have a situation in Barbados where you have on a high 1,100 men in prison, on a low 900 men in prison. When you check and see the individuals whom are more or less going through that revolving door, the same people
That was the
day in, day out,
I understand.
going back in.
I understand.
Now, the problem for me, and I'm not going to blame any one government, I'm going to say to you that is a failing of the system in
Judicial
Barbados.
system, yes.
Right? We
Yes.
need to implement such things as a parole system.
Correct.
We need to
But it's a
recognize
probation department.
that you need to recognize that you need to have a
Detention.
minimum security prison in Barbados.
And
You
a
got a
maximum.
maximum security prison.
So that's more money
You
to
need to
spend.
do more programs within the prison, and not only do programs in the prison. You have to have programs to help people when they get
Yeah,
out
no,
of
of
prison.
course, of
Because
course.
it makes no sense a man go into prison and
Well, I
agree.
for stealing or robbery or whatever it is, goes in there, decides that you know what, I can do some art, becomes an artist in prison, but when he comes out of prison and tries to sell that art or tries to play that trade,
The
no
stigma,
one is
the
taking
stigma.
him
I
seriously.
understand. I
So the
understand
only
that.
thing he can do is go back to the same life of crime.
That's
You know?
one aspect.
So
I understand that,
instead of you
Jermaine.
getting on a high horse,
In the high horse, Jermaine,
and
is the
trying
statistics.
trying to
Remember,
blame
when
this
people-
man on, but you need to look at that.
I understand that, Jermaine. I understand.
Well, that may be the solution, Mr. Bedford. We still have to understand that we still have a high number
Half
of
people
crime,
getting
and
killed.
we need to deal with that.
We gotta deal with that.
Go ahead, Mr. Bruce.
First of all, weapon of choice. That's one thing.
Yeah.
If me and you get in a scene,
Mm.
and I know it is an act of cowardness to me, because if I know me and you in a hand-to-hand bout, you will beat me down. The first thing you can do is get a gun and gun you down.
True.
Because I know any other way you liable to overcome me.
That's right.
So one, weapon of choice. Another thing, based on the question if it's an economic time. Now we have cultured the youth to believe that if not, and I'm speaking on a general board, majority, if you're not doctor, lawyer, bank manager, your life, your life,
you're
you
worthless.
fail in society
Yeah.
already,
Start.
On
Right?
the address.
and the address as well. So there need to be a push. There's not that real push to, hey, why not
Lord.
go and do some
Skill.
masonry? Why not go and learn a skill
Mhm, a
and be
trade.
your own boss?
True.
Right?
But they may not be teaching the entrepreneurship; they teach it to work for some
Yeah.
else.
Correct.
And
That's the
you're
system.
learning a trade that you may never get a job for.
True.
Yeah. So for one, the reason why murders will be up by gun because it's the weapon of choice. And if we
That's
look,
easy
if we
assessment.
look through history,
It's always
It,
been.
it was first it was close combat, then it was the
Sword,
sword, the
sword,
shield,
knife,
yeah.
and then the arrows come in. So people started fighting from distance. They realized,
close
well, I
combat.
don't have to get into my opponent to harm that person
Or to be harmed.
to be harmed.
We have a
You
very
understand?
powerful
Mario,
Somebody
sorry,
some more.
sorry to cut you. We have
Go ahead, we have
a comment
Comment by
here.
Lisa Moore. Government is also responsible when government officials are socializing and inviting them in parliament. That is enabling them.
I agree 100%.
Here's what I want.
Both sides
Here's
want
what I
that
want to put.
That's
a
what
spin.
I'm bulldog.
I want to put a spin on it too as well. Is that over the years I've seen, especially
It
in
is
the
truly so.
economic time,
Yeah.
I would blame government. I would always blame government whenever I see anything going wrong because what government has the power to do is legislate and change policy.
Yeah, legislature.
Now, one of the things I've seen underneath the previous administration is that it really did not focus a lot on the economy side of Barbados, and that would have led to a lot of what we are seeing now in terms of
I disagree.
wait, hold on, let me put it in terms of the fact that you had poor management of the country, which then led to, well, this previous administration come in to clean up behind poor management and having them to put people
That's
on,
debatable.
hold on, that's debatable. Having them to put people on a suffering line.
Harsh measures.
Now at the same time,
When measures no harm.
there's a flip side to it, when you're also developing a lot of our youth in the skill section
Mm.
and the trade section,
Mhm.
if you train 1,000 young people in the year of 2016
Good job.
to deal with masonry, carpentry, but that is the year construction is down,
Didn't get to work.
then you don't work
Go
for
ahead,
that thing,
Kimar.
and then you could obviously have a percentage of that group becoming the culprits to
Deviance,
what deviance. You understand?
I agree with you.
At the
to
same
that
time, no.
extent.
That when you look at the poor management of the country, and whenever there's poor management of country where you're inflating costs, you're inflating this,
Cost
and
of living
cost
is
of
risen.
living is risen. You're forcing the average man. At the same time, look at it in this entirety. Bus fare could easily affect an individual to go and
course.
rob,
Of
because
course.
at the same time,
Of course.
when you put on the bus fare, the man that used to have scrunch $2 to get somewhere now got
50.
scrunch 75% more
That's right.
to get somewhere. And if he feel that,
So you think the 350 bus for everybody there?
No, we're
not
not saying
regardless
that.
if it's
We're
a
talking
buy,
about the
but
economic
the
conditions.
economics of
Conditions.
if you're going in, you know that when I was buying hot dogs back in the days, that you could buy a can of hot dog for like $1.98. Now that can of hot dog is $2.44, depending on brand. Because if it's Eve or if it's
You
Thick,
Yeah,
got
no.
on branded ones.
or you got to bring on brand. But here's the thing though, a lot we don't constantly on branded either. So at the end of the day, when you push that upon people and this administration having to inflate, send home,
It's a shock to the system.
it is a shock to the system, and it will create people that would be, not only that poor people will be poor, but don't forget
The middle
the
class
middle
will feel
class
it.
will feel it. The rich class now will start to inflate costs. The supermarkets will start to inflate to subsidize for losses that they don't want to take. So all
Because
that plays a role.
it's a trickle down effect. Not that this one jump in.
I know.
Because I'm not trying to say right. I'm not trying to say directly that everything is government's fault. But remember that for every action there's a reaction.
Correct.
For me, like I would say I am lower middle class.
You sure with that?
When I have the
Upper
money,
middle class.
when I have the money,
You're upper middle class.
when I have the money,
Are you trying to pretend lower middle class today?
when I have the money,
Don't lay
guys,
in public around.
I drive a Corolla, buddy. I don't drive
But
nothing.
I fancy white gold chain on your hands.
Please.
Yes, sir.
These
Know
are
your
gifts.
point.
These are gifts.
Really?
What I'm saying to you, please.
Yeah, they don't have gifts.
These are gifts. Listen to what I'm saying. For the middle class person who at one point in a couple years ago, at one point had a little more financial leeway.
How
Who
many
could have
years
said
ago?
a couple years ago? Who would have had more financial leeway to say, you know what, I'm going to pay the lady to come and
cut my lawn.
clean my house, or I can pay for the guy to come and cut my grass. I can afford it. You will find out when recessionary measures are in, whether it's B or D. Because don't
I
forget,
can't get
I
work
cannot stand here and say that the Democrat Labour Party did not have to send home people. What happened on the Democrat Labour Party?
16,000 people
Yeah,
in the
unemployment.
sector lost their jobs.
16,000?
16,000 alone.
I love that number.
It's very
It's correct.
debatable.
It's very debatable.
No, you're not
Can you,
that
hold on,
very
can you read that
debatable.
comment from Lisa while you continue your point?
Nonsense. We have over 40 murders as of September 2019 as compared to 23 annually in previous years. Something is wrong.
The other comment?
Oh boy.
Since 2007.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
So what I'm saying is this. What I'm saying is this. You will find out when the middle class is affected, they can't employ people from the lower class to do work for them, do jobs for them. It's a vicious cycle. But the money is not filtering. No, the trickling is not happening. The trickling is
It
happening.
becomes
So where,
squeezing
if
on
I
the
got
trickling.
spend $200 to put, let's say it was the money, I got to spend $300 to fill up my tank and my pickup. Where I used to pay $250 before. That $50 now has to go in my truck. That's $50 that I don't have to spend on something else.
Somebody ain't put you being unreasonable. Sorry.
Unreasonable.
Let him work.
Go on, Mark.
How am I
Because we
being
ain't finished thinking do
unreasonable?
him.
Just a
Hey, well, I
touch.
see too.
Just a touch
Really?
on Mario's point about weapon choices, right?
Mhm.
If we look at countries like Sweden,
Mhm.
who has an excellent program as it relates to training its citizens in combat with guns
Of
and
course,
what's
yeah.
right?
Have a military.
Almost everybody has a gun, right? And gun violence is almost at zero in those type of societies. Not that I'm advocating for Barbados to adopt such a policy,
No.
but my thing is having a weapon brings a fascination,
Empowerment too.
right? The scarcity mindset. So if you don't have access, or I would say if you don't have readily available access to firearms, it creates like a scarcity mindset, and it also creates that excitement that if you get a gun, this is so illegal, and it's like also wow, and it brings that wow factor, right? And the psychology of it gives the person a type of empowering feel that you're doing something illegal, and then you're being praised for it as well.
Yeah.
I think that even in cadets, I think that most likely if persons are exposed to the proper etiquette as it
Handling a
relates,
weapon.
yeah, as it relates to firearms, right? Not saying that we just take people and just get them guns or just
No.
throw them, but
In a
if we
controlled
had
environment.
if we had proper education starting from school times
Mhm.
as it relates to guns and handling guns and the proper aspect of it in a controlled environment, like also the
Cadet.
new thing, the cadet corps.
So what do you
National
think? What do you
Youth
think,
Service.
thank you, more about the fact that the Prime Minister would have now increased from 800 from increase and changed the youth service into like this more BDF kind culture?
Our military kind of.
Paramilitary, because when it was in cadets, obviously one of the things was train on guns.
You were a cadet?
Well, for a short time, about
Very
a week.
short time.
I thought you
Right.
was about in school.
Right, well, it's just a cadets was for about a week. But I mean, like, I know that when you were in cadets, they train you on proper, especially when you go on march and things.
Yeah. Discipline and teamwork.
So I think that, what is your thought as relates to the Prime Minister have now moved the youth service to kind of something like a sub-military kind of
Yes,
thing?
I
What do you think?
definitely
Yeah.
Hey,
agree with that.
although I
Definitely
agree with what you said, I think one of the problems that we have now is the easier access to weapons.
But where they coming
Because
from?
but-
they're available.
But as Sudan,
They were held to
everybody
country
could get
Alright,
a
so
gun
let-
to get easy, but the gun
even more
privilege
now.
still down.
So let me ask a
Uh-huh.
question.
Everybody's scatters.
Over the years, right, I realized that, and I find it, for me personally, I find it rather distasteful. I found that, and I was just reading an article on Luke as it relates to, there was Barbados raised in crime.
Mhm.
And I'm reading where the commissioner and other leaders were talking about, but we ain't as bad as this body, or we ain't as bad as that body.
That's not the point.
I when I find that our leaders make those the
Comparisons.
comparison, the fact, I said, well, I got 37, but China got 500.
But China got a population
But
of
if the
billions.
population of a billion is that a
Yeah,
small,
that is
so
what
I
makes
find
sense.
that it's very difficult.
Makes
I find
sense.
that if you don't, you try
It's
to tell me
nonchalant.
you're not dealing with this problem.
Correct.
So you have to deal with it probably in the context that Barbados. When we did a comparison for homelessness, we said, and back in on the 2006, 7, 8, going up there, when homeless was at small numbers.
Okay. Mhm.
No, it was large, you know. But what I'm just saying is, when we did a comparison, we did like, is it called per GDP or per capita? Which one?
Mhm,
Per
mhm.
GDP?
Per capita.
Per
Per
capita.
capita.
We were higher than Miami.
Oh my God.
We were higher than Miami for
terms of homeless?
100,000. In
Wow.
terms of homeless, so
Wow.
so at the end of the day, because there's a larger population, it's like there's a drop. If they had like 1,200 people that was homeless, that's a drop in the bucket for them. But because because they may have 1 million people, sorry, that may be about a drop in the bucket. But Barbados have 300 and some 1,000 people, but you may have 200 homeless. That's
That's
still a
a lot.
lot.
I want
So per capita is
to
different.
insert something here quickly,
Go
right?
ahead, brother.
It would put a different spin on the whole situation when it comes to crime.
Okay.
You know, when you look at the work, you talk about the workforce and
Mhm.
homeless and that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
The workforce in Barbados today is predominated by women
Mhm.
because for some reason the men are not stepping up,
Mhm.
right? And when the men are not, even like, all right, we talk about unemployment in this country.
Mhm.
A lot of young boys say they can't get jobs.
They choose. They can't. They say they can't.
No, they say they can't find work.
Can't.
They don't want to work
Right?
out there.
However, the police force got a vacancy for 400 men.
Whoa.
But
400 men.
no,
For the men to snitch.
but remember, 400 men, but age was a problem. Qualification,
Yeah,
like
the two
English and
CSCs,
maths,
the
was
two
a problem.
Drug
And
use.
height requirement was a problem.
Right.
Drug in the system was a
There
problem.
was a point. There was a point. When
But I
the
didn't think that
Royal
they
Barbados-
reduced some of those things like
the-
age and
the
height.
Royal Barbados Police
Tattoo
Force.
is a problem.
The Royal
Tattoos.
Barbados Police Force came out and said that if you had 3 CXCs, they reduce it down to 3.
When I got Nancy, I get a job in the force, and they would like to be a police today.
I can't see you as a
Police
police
boy blue.
I know, I'm just saying
And
that.
pay and the work conditions.
And the work,
and
but
all
it,
these
but here's the
things.
thing. Here, when we go into the last couple of minutes and stuff, here's the solutions.
So you going fast, man. Love
Yeah,
it.
Yes, yeah.
here's the solution that I think that we need to look at as it relates to crime.
Mhm.
We need to cut out that foolishness where people go into court
Yeah.
and walk in that lane inside of what's called the central police
Oh, you mean
station.
again heal up?
And get healed up.
Got touch road
And
again.
got to get the, I think that if people are being transported into the prison, they should be transported. Cause I remember when a certain character in Barbados was being transported, the amount of guns and the amount of police that had to be there and stopping people from even coming in that same circle because certain people, I think that they should be transported through a private door,
The back.
a back door, wherever the hell you create,
Yeah.
so that it don't be a glorified
Glorified,
moment,
yeah,
and
true.
that person should be think. I also think that in the system, as you said, we need to look at programs to create to help these people in prison and out of prison.
That's right.
We also need to look at the fact that we need to cramp down on this long
We need to
overhaul.
remind,
And getting the man angry. Also, quicker and swifter. 'Cause I always say, Barbara, it's not criminals. Because I always hear alleged or remand. And it's certain to how the hell to me you could be committing crime on bail and committing crime
Killing
on
people,
bail,
killing
committing
people.
crime. And when you read the paper, all you hear is that person is known. That person is also having a court case in District A,
Right, so
District
no,
B.
they try to stop that now by
They got-
implementing
The bail
once,
act.
once you have committed a crime with a gun,
24
you have
months.
like how much?
It's 24
months. Yeah,
But-
2
From a
years.
switch, sometimes
I-
can
Because
be a
they,
little
they show based on what you were saying, Jermaine,
Yeah.
that they're repeat offenders
repeat offense.
Yeah,
And
it's
try
that come back from prison,
For the
come out of
same-
prison, and commit crime the
to
same
finish
way.
off people and
Brilliant
whatever.
statistics that Simon wants to speak about,
Yeah.
and then go back to prison.
But I want to say this, right? And
Go ahead, bro.
this for me, this is nothing political.
I
nothing
agree.
Like that,
I agree.
because I think we always get distracted when we're dealing with the issues of crime and violence in society. The reality is, I personally do not believe that prison is for everyone.
Yeah.
And
I don't
believe in this whole lockup
I-
and chewy key
Especially with
mentality.
child fathers, for
right?
sure. Man, I pay
No.
child support.
No, child support, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But
You gotta
I mean,
deal with that.
you got
That's a topic.
you have to
You deal
look
with that child
at
support.
when persons, like I see a guy in the paper, the guy that had stolen what was they stole? The guy that was 60 years old.
6 years, the woman.
Yeah, when they give him a year in prison.
Corned
Tuna.
beef or tuna, some kind of food.
Tuna clipper.
Tuna.
Right? Now when you look
Probably
at
needed to for that.
hold on. When you look at the amount of antecedents that man had, right? The amount of times he went to prison previously. And then there are other people who are going to prison continuously
Check my
for the
clients, bro.
same thing, right?
Yep.
It
Year
is
after
an
year.
indication
Christmas.
It's a
that,
failure.
that,
It's a
that-
failure.
that
Something is failing.
prison itself is not working. No, I'm not saying that no one should go to prison, because if you break the law,
Suffer
you
consequences.
have to suffer the consequences, as Simon
What about
says.
some more community service going to
Community service can work.
Wait,
Community
$100
service can work.
But
Community service can work.
we need to find other solutions. As I tell you, I
You know what
believe
negotiation we
I
want?
believe in a parole system.
Yeah.
I believe that.
But I would call for even the
But if you gotta do ankle
Other
monitors,
ankle
do
monitors.
it, because
You
look,
want,
you
back
see
from-
you see whilst government
Okay,
and
highway.
people sit down and
Oh, you
debate on what to do and what not to do, people in Barbados are suffering.
Yes.
People's lives are being affected.
Yes, they are.
You have to address the problem instead of continuously trying to put a band-aid on the sore. Because I can tell you, right now, the way how the legal system is functioning in Barbados, it really is not.
Yeah, but
functioning.
lawyers have said that, and even judges,
But
magistrates have said
Simon, the
that.
problem is from underneath previous administration to this administration.
Mhm.
If people are, and that is the most probably frustrating thing for me as a young person.
Go ahead.
There are people speaking in the professional from the Lawyers Association and all these people speaking. No problem. Speaking on these topics. They're the professionals because they are the ones interacting with the court system. They're the ones
Right.
that got the backlog. But yet it seems to me that the people that empower ain't listening.
But no, they listen. But what I would say is
Oh,
this.
okay.
At the
They're
minute-
doing.
Yes.
They're doing.
Yes, they're
Sorry,
listening.
my bad.
Recently, give Jack his
We
jacket.
must give this
We got
administration a
close to
jacket.
10 or 11 new judges appointed.
Right.
Who said that they're ready, judges, right?
To back up the-
And they said they're ready to deal with
Right.
the backlog.
Yeah.
So the judges are in place. The other thing now would be the attorneys to represent the same
Yeah.
ones in prison, the same
attorneys
offenders.
are coming forward.
Then the
yeah.
prosecutors, we gotta make sure now that we have enough prosecutors.
But
to
pros-
deal with
no,
it.
no, but prosecutors are doing the job because
I agree. I agree.
over the time in the
You know,
papers,
jacket.
and then going back to the papers again, we have been seeing a judge in Barbados have been showing out a lot of cases.
Yeah.
And I was privy to be in court today when he choked about 5. Because the prosecutors
They
were
were ready.
not
They were not ready.
bringing
They were not ready.
the evidence for the case to go forward. And you are hearing today, you come court today. Okay, adjourn next month. Next month,
I know about that,
I
man.
know people that have been going to court for
2
7
years,
years.
adjournment.
Every month.
Do you think that's regular?
No.
It can't be right.
It can't
That's
be
why
right.
it needs to. Those things need to be to be done. When
Yeah,
the prosecutors themselves need to be held accountable.
I agree.
The police
I agree.
officers need to be held
You
accountable.
know,
agree.
there are police officers who refuse to turn up to court for cases in this
And
country.
files too.
And the first
Files missing, officer, the files
and these
missing.
are things that have been said by legal professions. So
And
when
it's
these things,
only the poor that are
There's-
But when you
Ah.
mention about fellas missing, isn't that some kind of corruption going on?
Could be.
it could be, but here's
Or there's
what.
poor mismanagement. You
If-
got so many files. Don't forget, there's a backlog. You got so many files, so many offenses.
Yeah, but here's what. If I believe if I'm a judge, I should be within my rights. That if you're the prosecutor and you are wasting the court
You gotta
time,
change. You gotta
I
change.
should hell you.
you should be held accountable,
Let's
and
change you.
it should be liable that you should spend 6 months in jail too. Because you are wasting the court's time, you're wasting money, and you're also robbing that person of any justice,
I-
fear,
I
or
am drawing a salary every month for
And
doing
you're
nothing.
drawing a salary every month.
I don't see that happening. So you gotta get more realistic.
You gotta-
No.
you gotta-
It's not a matter of if I get more realistic, but these are solutions that need to be
Yeah,
put out
exactly.
there. Our viewers need to know that at the same time, when I got to lose my job, if you're gonna send me court for robbing the bank, send me jail, sorry.
Let's make sure.
But
expedite
don't
the
tell me
process.
that I working and I got to tell my boss every month
I
I
gotta go
got to
court.
go court.
I gotta
How
go
that
court.
can look for me,
Exactly,
especially if they
true.
hear that I thief. That means that anything in the workplace move, who they gonna call?
You.
So you're gonna be stigmatized through your workplace.
True.
You're gonna be looked upon through your family. Cause every month somebody like me that drive past the court every day to go to my office, gonna see Simon Steiner there all the way. Simon, what going on? This week, and next
month.
week, next month. So at the end of the day, if the prosecutors or the officers, I don't care who they are, lawyers or anybody, wasting in the American system, if you find wasting in the court, then you gotta pay court, you
You
know.
gotta pay the court, man.
So we
Of
should
course.
not got prosecutors in here saying, you know, where you have
Police
police
and
officers not turning up. If the
Not
case
sending
falls
files
missing,
in
you better
notes.
find it or you're in prison.
Because if
It's
that
got to be
happens,
held
the
accountable.
case gonna get thrown out.
I agree.
The case gonna
Can't
get thrown
call
out.
them a
You
wrong
can't call
man.
them- Exactly.
You can't call them an innocent man.
Can't do it.
You gotta-
You know. Yeah, you can't call them an innocent
Listen, I'm
man.
glad that
You understand?
I'm glad we
We
got
got a lot of
this.
viewers, but I mean, again, share
I
your
love it
comments.
too.
Share your comment. We'll run for about 2 more minutes. But when we don't have our politician making serious, yes,
And judicial system,
in the judicial system,
gotta
because
reform.
at the end of the day, right, when crime is seen as a glorified moment, as
As
Bruce
Mario
was
said,
saying,
yeah,
and when to toe that line in the yard
it's a big
is
thing.
seen as yo
But-
and
but-
all that, but and all that, and I love you, and
Go touch road again.
you understand when it's seen as that. I don't believe that nobody should even be in that yard.
No.
You understand? If you want, go in the court and sit down.
I agree.
You understand? So what I'm saying is we need to change the approach because
You
again,
glorify it.
what we need to look at, right, is that the simple fact. I don't know if any of y'all ever play sports, and somebody cheering on you, feel good, you know.
What?
When the boy cheering on, I remember going to watch NBA in Washington DC, and yes, the other sport team didn't have nobody. They had like a tiny little group over there, and the group obviously for that city had a big.
Yes.
I went here,
Let's go.
and the group scoring so like gang, the other group they fight up because nobody cheering them.
Yeah, they get
But
gas
because
up.
you're cheering, so when you're in them yard, you gas up and you feel that okay, this is a game, this is empowering that person to come again and again and again. We really need to look at our system. We
True.
need to make these men feel the full weight. And when you go to jail, don't tell me that you say don't get it.
I know that too. Sorry, I'm gonna cut you.
You go
We
ahead,
have,
yeah.
there's equity is important too.
How you mean?
In the sense that if a man that is prominent gets bail, for example, for a drug charge, a man that is not prominent on a similar drug charge,
Should
You
get
get
bail.
bail.
okay,
So, is it based
Okay.
on who you hire as a lawyer?
that's part of it too. That
I
could be
think
part of
I
it
think
too.
Sundays is also based on who you are in society too.
That's right.
But it should not. It should,
It shouldn't be.
I know for
But
sure.
Mara's
I know
making
for
a
sure they
point.
take some things into
But
consideration.
as the show is closing, just want to say that I had the opportunity to see a young child in his fundamental stage playing with a ball, running ball, kicking ball, and I asked myself the question: what turns a child from that to
Yeah,
into a
to monster.
murderer?
Very interesting point.
Right?
Yeah.
Very interesting point.
What turns a
Mario.
What
child
happened?
from there into a murderer?
Yeah.
Well said.
And the conclusion I came to is that that is so much time of neglect and not carefully
No nourishment.
watching that child, not carefully
Nature
monitoring
nurture
that child. So if we are going to deal with crime, we understand that there's a generation where, as if I could use the old cliche, you can't get a coconut tree bend that will willfully make decisions
Yeah.
for crime.
Right.
But moving forward as a nation and as a community,
That's right.
as parents, it has to begin with a keen eye on the behaviors of that child.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
have the interest in doing 5 signs of how you may know your child is on drugs.
You should.
Because they are signs,
Mm-hmm.
and these children enter homes daily and parents
What are-
refuse.
Tell the viewers, Mario.
What are these 5 signs?
Let the viewers
5
know.
signs.
1.
1. Whenever a child smokes and they're killing that roach, their finger tends to get that brown
Brown,
yellowy
yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
Okay, 1.
Inspect their hands.
Okay.
Inspect the
2.
house.
The constant asking for little change. You ain't got no change. You ain't got no change. The constant asking for little money.
Yeah.
But I know you $2 and you want $2 more, right? That's an indication. I speaking on a general board, not saying for every child,
Yeah.
right? But that's an indication that, hey, cause when I was younger, we used to do that. We used to go by the shop, stand and scrun, ask money for $2 so we could pull up and buy me little
Split.
thing. You understand?
Split it.
2. There's
Two,
Three
three,
now,
three
three
now.
There's 3 now.
Yeah.
There's the active eating, what we call the munchies.
Munchies.
Yeah.
The
Mm-hmm.
munchies,
I would-
right?
Just to help you over here, I would say irregular eating patterns.
Yeah,
Right? And then you munch. Eating at all times.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right? I got 4 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
4.
4, the laziness and the lack of interest in
Mm.
being productive,
Mm.
right? I when I used to smoke, there were times I would feel like working, and there are times I ain't
Yeah.
driving a stroke,
For
baby.
boy.
I ain't doing nothing because it puts you in that mentality of relax and you cock up your foot and you ain't doing
Feel
nothing,
you meditating.
right?
Probably
And then and then the last one
Yeah.
is the back of the teeth. It may not always show at the front,
Mhm.
but the back of the teeth
You know again.
has the brown residue,
Yes.
the stains.
You know
And
again.
parents need to look, examine their children.
Go
Hey,
ahead.
come on, boy.
You understand? It's your child, you responsible for it.
Mm.
Examine the child, inspect the child, because at the end of the day,
Mhm.
the parent has to count the cost for that child.
I
Oh,
agree.
boy, your belly.
The parent has to count the cost for that child.
And the parent
Would you
runs down to the
rather
house.
Would you rather, when you could be at work or home relaxing, be at a courtroom having to put you house on the line,
Nope.
having to put you car up on the line
No. Bill,
for that
Bill
child,
money.
when that child,
Your belly.
Oh, yeah.
when that child should be out there producing?
I agree
And
with
as
you.
a young man coming up, I made my mother come in the station many times
Gee,
till she cried one day. And when she cried, I said, I had to stop this.
my lord.
I had to stop this.
What age is
But-
that? I can ask.
That was at the age of 18. I had just as much charges as my age.
Wow.
So police used to see me on the road and shout me like if I went to school with him.
Jeez.
You know, by
Right.
seeing
Yeah,
me
Bruce.
all the time. I had files on top of files.
I want to share you have a turn around your life.
True Christ.
I-
True
I-
Christ.
I give God all the glory
And he deserves
because the other day I went for a police certificate of character
Mm-hmm.
and it came back for the 33 years that I'm living. I had no charges. And that can only be through God.
Yes.
And that's why I would always stress on allowing our children to know that the fear of God is the
The
beginning
end
of
of wisdom.
wisdom.
Amen.
Yeah.
Go ahead, brother.
I like that.
The fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. If our children don't have a knowledge that there's a higher creator that will judge, because discipline is what will bring us in line. Discipline.
The Bible uses
I
it.
went to the youth service back when it was down here at some point, and it was a very good program.
Yeah, yeah. man.
My fault was that when we after we did the 3 months,
Residential, I think.
and then we started going from the coast guard down by the wharf. We went through town, we went in bungalows and start smoking with weed. And one of the directors of the youth service come in there. We have his shirts turned inside out. Cause we had the t-shirts with the crest, the blue
Right,
t-shirts.
yeah.
So we had it turned inside out. But this guy who was like a sergeant, he go on his stripes and he in there dancing to the nitty gritty and smoking the biggest spliffs. And by the time we get back to base, all of you was dismissed. And that hurt my heart cause
And he was still in youth service?
no, all
Oh,
of us
yeah,
get
dismissed.
dismissed.
Okay.
And that hurt my heart because in the first 2 weeks, because of the discipline, about 5 of my friends said, Bruce, we can't take this no more. And they left the program and they said, no, I can't share my mother because I went in there through the court. So I wasn't about to leave that to go back out there to the same thing, you know. So understanding that a parent must know that when they see that child in its youth as a baby and you buying Nikes and Jordans for that child, remember that if that child is not carefully monitored in the future, murder could come out of that child because the devil don't play.
What moves you from here
from there
to there?
to there.
That's a good
Very good. It's something that needs to be studied.
I like how you end on that. You know, we're winding down now to the end of the show. We've had a long run, and obviously because it's a very interesting topic, it's a very powerful topic.
Yeah, man.
Crime and violence in our country. We wish we could have stressed on so much things. So forgive us if we did not touch on everything. But we impress upon you to leave your solutions, leave your ideas, so we can just forward them to the relevant persons. You know, just because these are some really good things that we're talking about as young people as well. All of us young, not so much all of us, but all of us are young. And these are very powerful topics that we like to stress on. You know, and bring. Dominic, how you doing? Wonderful work in the with the environment, painting cans and eco-rebel and stuff like that. Big up to you, Dominic.
All right, Dominic.
I work with her, so I know she's a wonderful person as well. But as we were right now, guys, I'm just gonna give you guys a final minute or so to say what you have to say, so that the show can be right down. Segment.
That was even really you.
No, go ahead,
Age before beauty. Right? I'm just kidding. What I want to say is that it's important to recognize that they say it takes a whole village to raise a child, and any approach to dealing with crime and deviant behavior has to be holistic, including the school, the church, as well as other actors in society. The family is very important, but sometimes because of different family situations, children may have what may be seen as a disadvantage, but they can overcome that. Even whether you come from a single parent family or not, it doesn't matter. Once you got a desire to do better for yourself, you can do it. We just want to impress on the lawmakers, those in the authority in the country. Look at the court system, look at how slow it is, how there's so many delays for different reasons that you may be aware of, whether it is the absence of prosecutors or the whole remand system, whatever. We need to work on that to make sure that justice is also swift, but also meaningful. That's my contribution, man.
Jermaine?
My contribution, I would say, taking from what Mario said, what brings a child from being a sweet little baby to one day becoming a stone cold murderer. We need to take our children to task, and we need to really understand who they are, what they're doing, where they're going, and what they're about. And in all of that, that is the beginning phase. We also need to look at justice system reform in this country.
That's right, judicial reform.
I am going to go on record and say I do not believe that prison is the only solution at times.
Agreed.
We need to look at a parole system from community service. We need to look at remedial programs. We need to look at the training that we give people in prison and how we provide for them when they get out of prison. Because the reality of it is that when we sit down and try to hide our nose and pretend that isn't happening, it is indeed happening. And when it is happening, it is affecting Barbadians. Every person that goes in prison costs the government of this country $30,000 to maintain for that year. Every person that goes in prison, remember, that's $30,000 to house them. Then you have to look at the resources you have to use to actually get them to the prison.
Healthcare,
if they hurt somebody, $375 per bed. You gotta look at the cost of the nurses, police officers. I mean, when you look at the cost of a crime in Barbados, it moves from $30,000 to over $100,000 or $200,000 in resources. So we could actually take that money and do something else with it. And I like to look at the economic situation.
True.
So I just implore the authorities, do what you have to do to make it better for people in this country.
Agreed.
Look at justice system reform. Don't worry about BD, NDP, whoever.
True.
The reality of it is Barbadians are the ones who are hurting.
Well said.
Keep my story.
Yes. Well, my take on it is, I think we as a country need a more open-minded view as it relates to the mentalities of the different persons who we call Barbadians. We are a changing society, and many different elements influence us currently. I would say we have an open border right now, but we have a lot of different persons flying into the countries from many different areas, which will bring their norms and cultures, which will essentially change the fabric of our society. And the issue of the high murder rate right now should be writing a story for us as it relates to having control over how we see society. There's a common mantra and segment, I'm sure you could agree with this, that Barbados is much more than an economy, but
It's a society.
a society.
That's
And
right.
if you have a viable society, you can have a viable economy as well. And if
True.
you have persons
True.
interested in producing and have the equal opportunity without all the nepotism and without all the corruptions, and have model politicians to
True.
emulate and to follow in their footsteps, who do not foster the environment for crime and violence, I think that would be a great beginning for change in the country.
Well said, Kimmer.
I agree partially with what you said, yeah.
Right, in response to everything, I still go back to the point whereas I think it starts from within the home, the family, and I think we need to get more programs public out there for parents to be taught how to be parents. Also, we didn't add to we didn't mention this, but music is a very, very important part.
It is a
Yeah,
bond
the
for the band,
violence.
definitely.
Yes, we didn't speak about it earlier, but music is very, very important. Whether it be
Dub
the
too.
rap, the dub, and mostly in our society, it's the dub. And I think we need to look
You
at
say
that and
hip
look
hop?
at what, pardon?
You want to say hip hop?
Hip
Yes,
hop too.
here also I say rap, but I
Rap,
said
hip hop,
mostly in
dub.
our environment, you more tend more younger guys usually like to listen to the dub more so than the hip
I
hop.
like voice
And you know rapping this time in the same as back in the days. But anyways, you see like Vice Cartelling, he promotes a lot of violence.
But
A lot
I disagree on that.
not
Pardon?
to
I disagree on that.
not to like
Vice is
not,
real,
not to
women.
run off on it,
Uh-huh.
right? But Voice Cartel is much more than not a violent.
Yes, I know that.
Definitely is not.
But
Really?
but the thing is that persons connect to certain types of music
And the
Right.
and certain songs,
Spirits too.
and that's the problem. Yes, spirits also very good singer.
And be listening.
At this time, I also would like to invite all men out there listening. There's a place right now, whereas where there are men, if you have any issues, any concerns, any problems right now, I think if you would like on Saturday at Barbados Family Planning, there's a new group, a men's group. Men stands for Men's Empowerment Network Support. If you would like some sort of support, like to hear some men speak, like want somebody to hear you speak and get out something that you have going on, or even find ideas or find solutions to problems you have, you can come out 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock at Barbados Family Planning, and we'll be there to help
This is
you.
under my Fabian Sargent.
Yes, Fabian
Yeah,
Sargent,
big up
our good
Fabian.
friend Fabian Sargent.
That was a good
It is
group
a
to start.
meaningful
Yes.
group.
Yeah.
Good,
Very
good,
meaningful.
Good, good
Trust
work,
me.
Fabian.
It's a
been-
men's group with a change. It's a men's
I've
group
been
with a
to it.
change.
It is
A men's group with
it's
change.
addressing the issues that men face.
Definitely know Fabian has a big heart for men and for family as a social worker and stuff
That's
like
right.
Correct. And further on, we will have Fabian on, and we will discuss the issues
Yeah,
of
definitely.
That'd be lovely.
later on the show.
that. But you want to say anything final?
Just want to say, the parents out there, to don't hesitate to seek help if the burden is too heavy.
True.
I don't know if they're real confidential programs, because some people may fear of
They are.
to explain it, to expose. So some people may feel as though
But not to
they're
explain is to
think-
expose.
Yeah, you know. So if they are, I just want to encourage parents to not take that load. It is good when you can have
Sure.
some of that burden lift off of
Stress.
you,
Yeah.
you know, and you would function better as a parent. But don't stay home with all that heavy load. let it out on the children, because we creating monsters when we
Well
do that.
said, boy.
Well said.
Thank
Well
you.
said. Thank you.
Well, I just want to thank all the listeners. Thank you, Ron
Viewers.
Henry. Viewers. I've been on radio more than I've been on TV. I want to thank you, Ron Henry, for technical support. What we also want to do is encourage you to stay tuned again on Saturday. We're going to come to you at 6 o'clock now each day. Each day. So every
We
Wednesday.
started 6 sharp.
Starting 6 sharp.
All right.
Every single Wednesday and Saturday, we'll be coming to you live. We'll be bringing the issues. Stay tuned on our page, like our page, to get the topic of the week, or we follow topics and then we bring it.
Yeah.
So that is what we normally do, and we'd like to bring hot topics, and we will be inviting more guests. We really want to appreciate Mario for coming
Thanks,
out,
Mario.
sharing his story. Very touching, very inspirational. My encouragement is, if you sing Christ all the way. Don't change it for nobody. Be who you are, and glad to see the change. And this is a positive young man that we can all see and acknowledge that he has changed and he has made his life meaningful in today's society. We've all had our stories as well.
Yeah.
And we're all meaningful young men in society trying to
Right.
make a change. Whether it be political for some, whether it be financial,
Social.
education, entrepreneurship, social. We all
You forget
think-
the budding economists.
economists,
Of
definitely. We made our changes, and we know we always like to highlight just what is going on. Don't think that the show was just to highlight the bad and the ugly, but we all have the good here to highlight as well. And we are young people that are been the change and an example. And we dealt with crime and violence today, and we tried to touch all things. We carried the show almost 2 hours just to deal with this hot topic. But stay tuned, and we will be back again bringing you more hot topics.
Yeah.
And stay tuned to DeBrief. Like us, share us, and stay
Follow
tuned
us.
until Saturday at 6 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Good night.
Thank you.